Am I audible to all of you? Hello? Hello? Just give me 1 second, okay? Then we'll start. Okay.
Ma'am, you mute your video.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for informing me. So, as we have discussed about the scientific management theory, then administrative management theory. So, as I told you, that those theories are considered as classical theories in public administration. And besides these two theories, there is also another theory which is coming under the classical theory of public administration, that is the bureaucratic theory. So, here, let me clear you one thing. Scientific management and administrative management, and of course bureaucratic theory, so all three of them, their concern was to study the structural aspect of the organization. Hello, anyone saying anything? So, if you draw the commonalities between these three theories, the bureaucratic, then the scientific management, and the administrative management. So, all three of them, their primary concern is to study the structural aspect of the organization, and also the efficiency aspect of the organization. So here, so far as the scientific management theory is concerned, it is talking about the efficiency in terms of productivity in an industrial organization. Similarly, while administrative management is talking about the entire structural and functional aspect of the organization as a whole. And while we are taking into account the bureaucratic theory, so this is the most significant theory who actually have provided the direction, the area of study to the public administration, that what actually public administration scholars need to study. Okay, so while we are studying a discipline, we need to define the scope of the discipline. So in that scope of the discipline, we need to locate that what are the forms of organization, what would be the content of the study of that discipline. So in that regard, public administration essentially begins with, no doubt, we have already defined it to some kind of definitional understanding. We have already discussed about it, that the government activities or anything relating to the common affairs where the government activity is been involved. So in that regard, the first organization we are countering, that is the bureaucracy. We are not essentially countering the organization like industrial organization, uh, but while we are thinking about public administration, the primary organization we counter, that is the bureaucracy, which we generally considered in nowadays as the civil service, the institutions which actually uh, um, um, provides, which engage civil servants um, in order to conduct the public work, to carry out the public work. So bureaucracy basically as a form of organization, or the studies or the focus on bureaucracy had come up elaborately in the writings of Max Weber. Max Weber was one of the leading scholar, or you could say that he is the prominent theoreticians who actually articulated that how bureaucracy needs to be conceptualized, theorized. So such kind of conceptualization actually had come up in response to the necessities of necessities of industrial society. What he argued in most of his work. So, if you go by the historical context, that the Max Weber essentially influenced by the Prussian military service, and accordingly he imagined that how order and discipline uh, is necessary for an organization to control the public activities, to manage the public activities. So if you go by the different writings of Max Weber, so you would be able to locate that how actually he was influenced by, while developing the ideal conception of bureaucracy, writing about the complex organization uh, and the spirit of capitalism. So his writings not only been influenced by his existing circumstances, but also been also influenced by the ideas of Hegel and Max Weber. In fact, if you consider these three thinkers, Friedrich Hegel, then Karl Marx. So here, Max Weber, being a scholar, being a philosopher, he had greatly been influenced by both of them. But while coming to the developing the conception of bureaucracy, he made a departure, or he made a distinction in comparison to Hegel and also Karl Marx. So while referring to I just want to little bit focus on briefly about the Hegel's ideas on bureaucracy. So Hegel basically considered bureaucracy is something who is a bridge between the state uh, and the civil society. Okay, so for Hegel, actually, bureaucracy is very much ingrained within the state structure. So bureaucracy is essentially not inseparable from the state structure. Like while you have also a paper on state, society, and administration. So in that context, you may confront issues with that. How could we would be able to determine the boundaries of bureaucracy? That is it merely about a public office, or is it something which is very much an integral part of the state, then if we are thinking in that direction, then how could we would view it as a form of social organization? So in that regard, the if we consider the philosophy of Hegel, so definitely his argument was more clear on the ground that bureaucracy is something which is very much ingrained with the concept of the state. So society is not essentially representing the common good, or the civil society, which Hegel classifies or sees how society is functioning. So there he was not very much enthusiastically supported in favor of the civil society. Rather, he is very much presenting something very much idealistic view about the state. And so as he was very much idealistic about the state, so of course this uh, um, favors the existence of bureaucracy also. So bureaucracy is something for Hegelian framework, bureaucracy is something who is actually implementing the idea of the state and trying to act as a bridge between the civil society and the state. Bureaucracy, for Hegel, bureaucracy always pursue the higher objective of the society, the higher goal of the society. It essentially represents the common interest of the society. So, however, Marx is completely different from about the concept of state and the bureaucracy. That, of course, here in your curriculum it is not coming, but I am referring to it because we are going towards discussing that. The bureaucratic theory, why actually it evolved as a theory, and how could actually public administration could be, research on public administration could be expanded uh, uh, in focusing the role of the bureaucracy, or bureaucracy as a phenomenon in our society. So if you consider the viewpoint of Karl Marx, so Marx was essentially not believing that state is a kind of permanent institution. So state will wither away someday. So Marx predicted that state is just a historical phenomenon and it will subsequently wither away. And bureaucracy is something that which is actually um, in the who is actually um, managing the state affairs. So all those people who are part of the bureaucracy, so they are actually pursuing the interest of the capitalist class, and that interest somehow coming fulfilling through the state, or represented through the state. So Marx was very much critical about bureaucracy as an institution as such. So while taking those two different kinds of perspective or viewpoints, so while we are coming towards the Marx Weber, so Marx Weber actually was neither very much critical about the existence of bureaucracy. Rather, he took the strong position that bureaucracy is very much evident. Bureaucracy is very much an obvious institution in order to respond, in order to manage the complexities of an industrial society. So while actually industrialization has been expanded, and such expansion carried out in order to pursue the agenda of capitalism or the expansion of capitalism. So in that regard, the complexities which have emerged in the society, so who is the best institution to address it? So Max Weber here is observing that bureaucracy, the evolution of bureaucracy as a modern form of organization, it is quite evident in case of an industrial society. And when industrial society is expanding, definitely complexities has been expanded, like environmental concerns, or also issues relating to equitable development, or also issues relating to worker strike, trade unions, all these things, issues relating to general well-being. So all these things are actually um, been need to be responded, need to be managed through a particular organization. And in that regard, bureaucracy is something who is maintaining relative distance from industrial based organization, and their distance from the industrial organization actually giving them the legitimacy to manage the conflict within the society. Okay, so with this actually, the such kind of understanding finally led towards the development of the thesis that bureaucracy could be viewed something as a very much neutral institution. And here, those who are being employed in this institution, so they must carry the values of impersonality, anonymity, and of course their salary needs to be paid by the state. Okay, and they need to be anonymous in the public life, uh, because they are the officials who needs to perform the job of the state. uh, so that's why they need to make a distance, they need to maintain their distance from the industrial setup, and also from any kind of groups or politics from the uh, society. So in that regard, the bureaucracy or the members of the bureaucracy needs to be very much anonymous while dealing with the issues of common public importance. And of course that they need to be hired by, or they need to be selected on the basis of competitive examination. So here, that if we go by the present trend, how actually bureaucracy as an organization is functioning, and how the civil servants needs to be recruited. So of course it is the idea of Max Weber which continues to be prevailed till now, and that actually making providing the strength to his idea that bureaucracy as a form of organization still sustainable and still playing the dominant role in the society. Okay, so with this actually the theorization relating to bureaucracy has been evolved, and Max Weber talked about the ideal conception of bureaucracy. So this ideal conception of bureaucracy essentially is about something, it is a hypothetical phenomenon. Okay, it is a it is existing in the hypothetical context. Okay, so it is something very much abstract. So while we are saying something ideal means that we are imagining that something perfect. Okay, no doubt it would be very difficult to define what is perfect, but while we are saying the ideal construct means that there we are preparing a construct in our mind that which must bear certain kind of resemblance towards the perfectness. And while we are observing that such imagination could be a possibility in the social reality, then we are saying, okay, this is the perfect replication of the ideal type. Okay, so it is not merely about the ideal type of bureaucracy, definitely expanded by the Weberian writings, but ideal as a word essentially could be reflected or could be manifested in every object or in every kind of behavior in the social reality. Suppose we are saying that okay, this is the good, this is good. That means suppose while we are observing some entity, we are saying okay, this is very good. That means, so why we are saying good? Because that good, saying good means that our mind there believes that what is in our mind about the perception about goodness, that founds to be reflected in social reality. So similarly, ideal construct of behavior is something, it is existing in the abstract world. So Weber clearly pointed out that, or argued that ideal construct of bureaucracy hardly exists in the real world. Ideal construct of bureaucracy is existing in our hypothetical stage, and basically it is a heuristic in nature. Okay, it is a heuristic construct that which can be applied in the social life, in the real life, while forming the organization like bureaucracy. Okay, so while making that ideal type construct, so he talked about that it is idle because this construct is idle because it is not subject to any kind of biasness, it is not subject to any kind of imperfect human imperfection, because it has to provide, or it has to implement the rules and regulation in a fair manner. And so in order to be fair, in order to be objective, and in order to deliver the common good, so it must be neutral. Okay, it must be neutral from different kinds of emotions. So then only it would be able to perform effectively. So, in that regard, while further explaining what is this idol, so in modern society, the form of organizations which been created that must detach themselves from any kind of pre-modern values, okay, or any kind of pre-modern categories and values. So in that regard, he prioritized that in while we are saying that it is the modern civilization, that means we are believing that the this civilization believes in the individual as the agent of social change. So here, in while we are saying that we are in a modern world, that implies what? That implies that here individual is free to pursue his or her destiny without any kind of restriction. And here the institutions of the states, institution like state and bureaucracy, they need to facilitate individual towards the achievement of his or her dreams. Okay, so in that regard, bureaucracy as a form of organization has come up to facilitate the individual aspirations, or to ensure the that how the common good will be delivered, and at the same time the effective enforcement of law and order could be a possibility. So, in that regard, he pointed out that how could actually this ideal construct of bureaucracy would be able to serve better or in a effective way in comparison to the other forms of other authorities. So here he talked about the authorities, like he classifies the three kinds of authorities which I have already also discussed. That one is charismatic authority, then the traditional authority, then the legal rational authority. So here the ideal type of bureaucracy needs to be governed by the legal rational authority. And as the bureaucracy has come up in a modern society, so in that regard, so law is the prime regulator and motivator to pursue the public act. So in that regard, it is not merely about the charisma, or it is not about the any kinship or social relationship through which the work of the government will be done. So work of the government will be done as per the rules, as per the established rules and regulations uh, framed by the state. And who will actualize it? So it is the bureaucracy is supposed to actualize all these ideas of the modern government. So so while Weber developed this formulation, so concern was that the industrial society has expanded against the feudal society with a promise, or with a not just promise, with a idea that it will not actually debar individual to pursue for the wealth. And while actually industrial society has been expanded, so the complexities of industrialized society come up in the form of workers movement, in the form of environmental problems, and also that huge inequity has also been expanded in terms of income, while the wealth remains in the hand of few people, whereas most of the or major segment, population segment, had not access to that wealth. So automatically the complexities has been escalated due to the expansion of industrialization. Then in that condition, uh, while looking towards the role of the state, that how actually the political aspect of the state would be able to deal with all these complexities of industrial organization. So state also needs to be maintain its neutral position in comparison to the pressure of uh, capitalist class. So that's why the form of organization which have come up in the in the modern age. So one of among them is the bureaucracy, where those persons are given opportunity who need to be selected through the principle of merit. And as they have been selected in the principle of merit, so here, so they need to paid out of the state exchequer, and they need to be neutral, they need to be impersonal. So whatever may be they in their personal life, so they are not allowed to ventilate their personal anxiety, their personal emotions, their personal judgment also about any issue, while implementing the law, the while also delivering the objective of the state. So then only a kind of neutrality could be prevailed. So here, that the Weber's attempt was to how to actually rationalize the modern form of organization. So in order to provide a way out, that the modern form of organization like bureaucracy needs to be rationalized, its existence needs to be rationalized. If it needs to be rationalized, then it needs to adhere all these values, that it needs to be neutral, it needs to be impersonal, it uh, the civil servants must be anonymous in nature. They could not use their influence and power uh, on others, and at the same time they are also not allowed to be influenced by any kind of external pressure while implementing the law in the society. And so far as the structure of the organization is concerned, that it has to be created as per the legal principle. So, in a traditional sorry, in a traditional authority system or in a charismatic authority system, the structure of authority essentially determined on the basis of kinship, on the basis of heredity, or on the basis of mm, influence or emotions. Whereas, in case of the ideal construct of bureaucracy, um, the structure of the organization would be just a second. Just
मैं ये जानता हूँ तुम ये जानने के लिए बेताब हो रही होगी कि ऐसा तिलोत्मा ने मेरे साथ क्या किया होगा जिसका अंजाम आकाश लालची तुम जैसे निर्दोष लोग भुगत रहे हैं।
yeah. So the structure here actually come into picture because the structure is governed by the legal rational authority, and here the relationship between the superior and subordinate is not driven by certain kinds of charisma. Like suppose that if subordinate believes that okay, the my boss or my superior is really not very much a very influential person, very much appealing to me. So, in a formal bureaucratic setup, we can't expect that the superior always to be a very charismatic person, because here the person doesn't essentially matter. So he or she has come by the okay the merit based process, but after becoming the part of that institution, he or she needs to be impersonal. And see the conduct of the civil servants needs to be guided by as per the law. So there, the perception or the judgment of the superior or the subordinate, it should not reflect uh, in their official act. Okay, so just here, like you could take an example. Suppose some majority of subordinates, they are in they thought that okay, our superior must be like this, like having such kind of physical feature, such kind of ability of communication, such kind of that 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 person, the subordinate, must be look like a king. So such kind of perception essentially not to be valued in case of the formal bureaucracy, or in case of the you could say the modern form of bureaucracy. Like you also take into example the values uh, like suppose we are saying the masculine values, the those who are the powerful person, they need to show their masculine values. So here essentially that the perception itself is biased towards certain kinds of male dominated values. So while bureaucracy is asking, while the modern form of bureaucracy is imagined in the context of modern form of organization, so automatically Weber is asking us to get neutral about all these values. So here position is important, and position is been respect to the position is been guided by the law, and the assignment and responsibility has also been guided by the law. So in that regard, the person concerned needs to maintain anonymity, or needs to be impersonal while delivering uh, any official act. So here the purpose of the Weber was to focus on that the modern form bureaucracy as a modern form of organization needs to be rationalized. Okay, and such rationality could only occur through the legal rational hierarchy, or then impersonality, then a completely well designed structure as per the law, then the principle of anonymity. So then only it could be able to perform or deliver in an efficient way to the society, uh, to the society. So in that regard, bureaucratic theory provides actually put its enough attention on that how the structure of the organization could be formulated. So the structure of the organization needs to be created as per the legal parameter. And here the role of emotions, the role of the different kinds of values, and of course the background of the person from which he or she belongs to, like the social background of the person. So all these things are getting immaterial while he or she is becoming the part of the bureaucracy, because automatically the bureaucratic sphere asking the person to be impersonal while delivering the work. So it was a necessity, what Weber is writing, that in the economy and society, that the emergence of bureaucracy as a modern form of organization actually is inevitable in the complex societies like industrial society. So uh, uh, when industrialization would automatically expand, so it will definitely lead towards the greater role for the bureaucracy. So here bureaucracy cannot be escaped. Then another point he also made, that bureaucracy actually provide a routinized arrangement. Okay, so we need to say that the routinized arrangement actually makes us successful. Like in your day to day life, you are acquainted with certain kinds of routines, like waking up early, taking breakfast, finish your homework, then doing your all the day-to-day work, and then taking food in time. So all these things what informs us. So it informs that if we are sticking to a regulated and routinized life, then there is the possibility that we will be healthy or will live longer. So in a modern society, bureaucracy also brings a certain kinds of stability through the routinization. Okay, through the principle of routine or routinization. So here that no doubt so much complexity, so much problems occurs in the industrial society, but the existence of bureaucracy offers the prospect that the complexities are to be handled, or complexities need to be taken care of in a routinized manner. So no complaint, no issues associated with the complexity would not be escaped from the attention of the bureaucracy. So it provides somehow a stable order or stability to the maintenance of an industrial society, which believes in, essentially talks about the progress. And in that regard also, it is very much conducive for the expansion of the capitalistic development. So here we could say one thing, that somehow, that if we compare the work of Frederick Taylor the principles of scientific management with the bureaucratic principles. So here we could sense that the objective was somehow to provide stability to the organization, or also to bring certain kinds of stability in the society as well. So Frederick Taylor had tried to develop the principles of scientific management in order to bring stability within an industrial organization, where he talked about the productivity. And so how this productivity could be achievable. So in that regard, Frederick Taylor talks about the control, regulation, discipline, and also that to develop the best method. So in that regard, while we are comparing with the bureaucratic theory, so here Weber attempted to rationalize bureaucracy in order to fit itself towards the industrial society. So in order to meet the needs of industrial society, bureaucracy need to well equipped itself so that it will be legitimately accepted by the modern society. So here actually we are getting somehow a very much society centric perspective while analyzing the bureaucracy. So that's why Max Weber is considered as classical thinker of classical thinker, or read as classical thinker in sociology, uh, because his analysis on bureaucracy, his ideal construct of bureaucracy, it talked more about society centered perspective than essentially the state perspective. No doubt it is talking about the control, how the personnel, the people who are part of the bureaucracy, they needs to be controlled, but the necessities of controlling them has become essential, because in society they need to be somehow been seen as a neutral entity. So if somebody is not neutral, then how could society will accept that entity to deliver the best, or to deliver the common issues, or to address the common issues which is affecting the society. So if some certain kinds of conflict is going on between the two groups, so in that regard, the state agencies who need to deal with such kind of issues, so they need to be viewed as neutral entity by the society. So in that regard, the methods of recruitment, the code of conduct, and the functioning of the bureaucrat as officials, okay, because they also need to be paid out of the state exchequer. So he clearly pointed out that the civil servants, they will not be influenced by any kind of support through by the industrial persons or the influential persons. So they need to be neutral towards all these kinds of advances. Then secondly, they also should not bring their social perception while performing their work. So in that regard, Max Weber had tried to rationalize the bureaucracy itself in order to stand as a fit agency, or an appropriate agency to respond to the complex needs of the society. While we are looking towards the Frederick Hegel, so he actually talked more about the state-centered perspective on bureaucracy, whereas looking towards the Weberian writings, no doubt he created a ideal construct, that where he had given primacy to the law in shaping the nature of the bureaucracy. But this law itself is the creation out of the democratic process. So here, that this law essentially asking the bureaucracy or the people who are being engaged in the bureaucracy, that they need to be neutral. So such understanding, here we are getting that this understanding has some sort of similarity with the Woodrow Wilson's argument that the job of the public administration is to implement the law or to enforce the law. So while taking into account the legislative enactments, it is all about the role of the legislature. So while coming to the implementation of law, so the role of public administration coming into picture directly. So in that regard, he insisted that administration needs to be separated from the politics, because politics always been or historically been viewed as a troublesome while implementing the policies and the law for the civil servants. So here, that such kind of neutral engagement, such kind of detachment from the politics also could be viewed through the understanding of bureaucracy as conceptualized Marx Weber. However, the purpose of Marx Weber in conceptualizing this neutral content of the bureaucracy, definitely it was very much society centric, where he is not just considering it as a state institution, he is also taking into account that in order to remain acceptable in the society, the bureaucracy needs to fit itself as a neutral institution. So, as society is consisting of diverse groups and viewpoints, so in that regard, bureaucracy needs to maintain somehow relative distance from all these kinds of group conflict or partisan approach, so that it would be accepted by the society to adjudicate issues relating to conflict, the complexities of the society. So in that regard, he provided the values, the sorry, not values, the attributes which the modern bureaucracy needs to have. That the hierarchy needs to be structured on the basis of legal rational authority. Then there must be impersonality. Okay, so the person who are engaged in the act of public activities, they need to disengage themselves from their own personality. Then third, they need to be anonymous, they need to be also neutral, and their the expenditure, their all these things to be borne by the state. So in that regard, the bureaucracy has been viewed as something, a very rational form of organization to deal with the issues, the conflicting issues of the society. Okay, so it is here he tried to provide uh, a rationalistic way out, that how actually bureaucracy, or focusing on the bureaucracy, could open up the new arenas of inquiry, that how does actually as an agency it matters in settling the disputes or in settling the complexities of the society. So this is all about the bureaucratic theory. And while we are making the comparative analysis between the scientific management theory and the bureaucratic theory, we are getting one similar thing, that the attempt towards rationalization. And so far as administrative management theory is concerned, that it is talking about the structure of the organization. Of course, in Weberian analysis also, the structural aspect of the organization found to be very much visible. But all these three theories, they are somehow concentrated their attention on organization. And on the one hand, some of them are talking about the structure, and on the other hand, some of them are talking about the productivity. But the purpose of their entire analysis as a theory is entirely on the organization, to study the organization, that how actually organization needs to be studied, and how actually its activities needs to be analyzed, and how the outcome of the organization needs to be analyzed. So in that regard, the human resources, no doubt, in Weberian analysis, the role, what would be the role of civil servant? This has been elaborated, like the civil servants needs to be anonymous, needs to be maintained neutral, and also impersonal. Similarly, while going towards the scientific management analysis, we are getting the person who is been engaged. So here he is actually giving more priority to the role of the management, and in that role of the management, that the focus must be that how to manage the workers. Okay, so here Taylor essentially not viewed any kind of innovative, or not expecting any kind of innovative work from the side of the worker, because Taylor had convinced that the best, or the best innovative one, had already been achieved by the management, and that has already been transferred to the worker in the shape of standardization. Okay, so that's why that the human aspect somehow found to be missing in their analysis, while taking into account the administrative management approach, that it is also, though it talks about the staffing, principle of staffing is there, and it is necessary to run the organization, but at the same time, that it has entirely focused on the aspect of the different kinds of principles, and in that different kinds of principles, that it talked largely about the managerial principles, where that the planning, the budgeting, the division of work, uh, or the how the communication needs to be done, authority and responsibility, all these things have widely discussed, while in comparison to the personnel are concerned, that been underestimated. So so as a result of which, actually it has led towards the genesis of um, human relations theory. Okay, so as I told you in the previous classes, that if we try to understand, while we are trying to understand the growth of administrative theories, we need to take into account the role of paradigms in public administration. So the first two paradigms which I have mentioned already, that the politics and administration dichotomy, which is talking about the separation of administration from politics. So that seem to be very much visible in the ideas of Max Weber. So Max Weber actually provided that theoretical background, that how public administration needs to be studied, and subsequently it was Woodrow Wilson's article that which also once again renewed that focus, that administration needs to be separated from the politics, because administration is failing to maintain its neutrality and autonomy. So it is somehow once again in sustaining the ideal conception of the bureaucracy, because ideal conception of bureaucracy is talking about something, a perfect bureaucracy, which is though really it is difficult to found it, uh, but human society or the state always need to go for it or pursue for it, maybe through drawing a rationalized mode of recruitment process, maybe through a particular code of establishment of the code of conduct. So by pursuing all these activities, then we could be able to get a neutral um, neutral entity in the form of bureaucracy, and
Andare a vedere la tela, che te la tela?
uh, and it will be able to deliver the will of the state or the enforcement of the laws in an effective way. So in that process, actually, somehow it is the human element who who is considered as very much significant towards the successful running of the organization in present in 21st century. Now we are talking about that human resource management. In fact, yeah, we do have also syllabus or paper or different papers on human resource management, where we are talking that human resources needs to be mobilized. It is not just about that human being are only pursued by the material interest, the economic interest. Their emotional well-being, their happiness, or all these things matters towards the success of the organization. So if we consider this argument, then so its reflection somehow got its manifestation through the evolution of human relations approach or human relations theory, where which is being actually developed and expanded by Elton Mayo. So Elton Mayo's writing actually provided an elaborative understanding that how actually human relations matter in an organization. So before proceeding towards that, I need to make a clear point over here that administrative management and bureaucratic theory and scientific management theory, so all of them are clubbed under the classical theory to the public administration. So all this classical theory got challenged due to the shift of due to the expansion of market and shift of capitalism from non-Western sorry from Western societies to the non-Western societies, and in that triggered actually the concern came up that in search of new theories. So, so the genesis of human relations theory, um, uh, it is recognized as modern theories in one of the modern theories in public administration, because modern theories of public administration are critical towards the understanding that public administration is not merely studying about organization. Okay, so they modern theories, they developed their central uh, proposition that public administration is more about learning what actually happening in an organization, what actually happens in an organization, and how do human behave in an organization, and what kind of values organization carries. So if we go by the classical theories argument, the organization are essentially needs to be value neutral. Okay, if you go by the Weberian understanding, and also if you go by the understanding of the administrative management, it is very limitedly focused into the aspect of the values or the emotions aspect, whereas, and it is only talking about the structure. Well organized structure is essential in order to maintain the efficiency of the organization. So they are very much normative about the the structural arrangement, so that efficiency could be achievable. But the modern theories, they got critical about this kind of conventional assumption that public administration is not merely about studying organization in terms of principles or in terms of structure. So modern theories, they believe that on the one hand there are a binary way through which modern theories in public administration has been discussed. One of the way is through behavioral approaches, and the other way that through which that the values, the democratic values which needs to be uh, um, taken into account while studying the role of the public bureaucracy. So while going back to the behavioral theories, there we are getting two prominent theory. One is the Elton Mao's theory, that is the human relations management, and another one is the Herbert Simon's theory, that is the decision making approach. So the behavioral theory actually asked us to focus on that how actually human they behave in the organization, and how human got motivated to work, and under what circumstances they are taking the decisions that they likely to take or they are failing to take. So that could bring somehow a very scientific understanding to study organization rather than focusing on just merely principles. So, in that regard, Elton Mao's contribution and Herbert Simon's contribution considered to be very prominent. So let's first begin with the human relations theory. So, human relations theory actually came as an alternative to the scientific management theory, where the relationship between employer with employee, the relationship between the formal organization and informal organization matters in productivity. That what human relations theory is saying. So the proposition here is that it is not about the productivity is not merely about bringing the best formula, what scientific management theory is asking, propounding. So, human relations theory here is making the point that productivity is not about the innovation of the best formula. Productivity is about that how actually employees or their needs to be taken care of by the organization. So, productivity essentially depends on that while employees would be able to get a level of informal interaction within the organization. So, with this, actually, the relationship between formal and informal organization found to be discussed in the literature of public administration, because a traditional or classical approach to public administration essentially talked about the existence of formal organization, because formal organizations are the created out of the law, whereas the presence of the informal organization, it matters for human being to act in a more sensitive way or in a more effective way in comparison to that only to be driven by the legal parameters. So with this, actually, the human relations theory um, got prominence as an alternative to the scientific management theory. So let me show you some person. I'm just opening up the slide. Just is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
This is about that how actually human relations movement emerged in late 1930s. Okay, so I also suggest you to read the world history, the time period between the latter part of the 18th century to the initial part of the 19th century, so that you would be able to clear how actually different kinds of historical events led towards the genesis of those theories. So, human relations theory is also a product of that, and it basically emerged in late 1930s as an outgrowth of scientific management. And this movement came from the number of sources that, as I told you, psychologists, sociologists, and anthropologists. So they were critical about the narrow concept of the organization, and particularly the focus on the structure of the organization. So in their viewpoint, that the organization has not adequately focused into the human aspect, who is been considered to be, who is been actually responsible for bringing efficiency in the organization. So for them, actually, the classical theories to organization or public administration, it is somehow running in a dehumanization form, and they are considering human being as cogs in the machine. So therefore, a major change in the organization theory came after the results of Hathorne's experiment conducted by Elton Mayo and others during 1920s. Okay, so it made two significant contributions in organization and management. First is it posed a challenge to the physical and engineering approach to motivation. Then the assault was made on the purely structural hierarchical approach to the organization. So, as I told you, that classical approach concern that about the structure. So human relations theory, or you could say that it is one of the modern theories to the public administration. So they were actually critical about the concern, critical about the classical theories concern, that why merely structure. So structure actually has reduced or somehow shifted the attention of the organization from human being and confined its attention to the structure only. And it is talking more about the hierarchy in the organization, and it is somehow that considering organization as a machine, or you could say there are some textbook also they are writing the mechanistic understanding to the organization has been facilitated through the classical approach to the public administration. So they are considering organization as machines. So such predominant understanding uh, actually led towards the underestimation of the role of human being
মারি
in
গেলে
the organization. No doubt,
কি বন্ধ করো
in scientific management, in bureaucratic theory, they talked about the role of the personnel, but
ওহো
their functioning essentially been viewed in
শুনো
the
কথাটা
form of their what happened, who is talking. Will you please mute your mic? Please mute your mic. Hello, am I audible to you? Who is this Rajkishore? Who is this Rajkishore? Please mute your mic, please. So here, human relations theory, uh, it actually provided the contribution in the shape of that it challenged the physical or engineering approach to motivation, that human motivation, that there is an understanding that human being are always been motivated, their motivation is been driven with certain kinds of material conditions. Okay. So they just work for the money. Okay. Not beyond that. Then also that it also was critical about that the focus on structure and the hierarchical approach to organization somehow detached the detached the human being from the organization.
एशियन पेंट्स ब्यूटीफुल होम्स पेंटिंग सर्विस अरे पेंटिंग में 20% मुझे आता है 0.04 रेस्टोरेंट अच्छा है सर हमारा जो खाना है वो वर्ल्ड का बेस्ट वर्ल्ड का
Okay, then why it is not coming? Is it the slide is visible to you, all of you?
No, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, visible.
I don't know why actually it has come like this. Uh, it is not moving either. So anyway, why actually it is not coming to its previous form? I am not getting it. Okay, and just 1 second. Now it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Ah. So it is George Elton Mayo, who is considered as one of the pioneers, of course, the leading pioneers, you could say, human relations approach to the organization. So his main hypothesis is that the relations between employers and employees would be humanistic, not mechanistic. Okay, which presently we are also in 21st century, we are also focusing on the human sides of the organization. But still, I think this is a parallel thinking. Okay, though still productivity still continues to be the main motto of um, organization, no doubt. But still, we are the organizations are now attempting to show themselves very much human centered. Anyway, the genesis of this human relations theory is actually bringing that attention over here. So employees and workers deserve to be treated as individuals with dignity, self-respect, rather than as factors of production or interchangeable elements of production system. So essentially, it is talking more about the non-economic aspect of the organization. So organizations, or particularly industrial organizations, are not merely the producing unit, though it is very difficult to establish that they are not essentially being created for that. But despite such kind of argument, um, that Elton Mayo was in favor of the idea that the human beings, as they are human, so that's why they need to be treated with dignity and self-respect, than just merely as factors of production or as an element of production system. So he looked upon industrial organization as psychosocial system with primary emphasis on human resources, their behavior and welfare, need and satisfaction, interaction and cooperation. Okay, so as we have observed that as it is a part of the behavioral theory, so that's why that here the how actually psychosocial system impacts the human resources. So, how actually human being feel conducive to work in an organization. So, it is not here. Mayo made the point that it is not merely about the material motivation. It is also the psychological motivation. It is also the social environment which actually inspire us to work, like some work we do that to get the satisfaction that you might have come across of many people that who are not in the very much higher paid job, but they are very much satisfied or contented with their job. That means they value the social relationship in the organization, or they value the social relationship in their surrounding. So that's why they are very much satisfied with the uh, work despite having the low pay package. And some we may also get some individuals that who are very much social. For them actually daily interaction with other people matters, so they are not just merely coming to the office only to do the work and to go back to their home. Okay, they also come to office to have an interaction to that. They also extend their hand of cooperation, that while if any colleague is in problem, so in that regard actually they are exhibiting, they are living the life of human being. So here Elton Mayo perceived that industrial organization could be taken as a psychosocial system. So they are also so while we are saying that these organizations are also being run by the human being, so how could they would be able to detach themselves from the mental needs, satisfaction, interaction and cooperation? So it must be there. Then he focused his attention on the behavior of the workers and their production capacity, keeping in view physical, economic, and psychological aspect. Okay. So essentially, it is about the behavior of the worker, how actually workers perceive the production. That matters. Shall workers or does workers perceive the production only that in comparison to that to keep in view the production of the concerned organization, or they are thinking that okay that the production needs to be done because it is also bring a sense, a kind of reputation to us, a kind of recognition to us. So it is not essentially about the material or monetary thing. So in that regard Elton Mayo suggests us to have a very much peculiar attention or specific attention towards the behavior of the workers and how they actually perceives um, the production system itself. Okay, so it was around 1920s and 30s that Mayo was invited to conduct research at the Hathorn plant of Western Electric Company, and such experiment have come up with a strong feeling that there exists a clear-cut cause and effect relationship between the physical work, environment, the well-being, and productivity of the worker. Okay, so the assumption was that while before conducting the experiment, that there is a relationship between the physical work, environment, and well-being and the productivity of the worker. So here the assumption have come up that if there would be proper ventilation, the temperature, lighting, and improvement in other physical working conditions would be there, and wage incentive scheme would be there to for the workers. So definitely they will produce more. So that was the opinion of the management. So everybody loves to work in a very good office, having good infrastructure, having lights, AC, air conditioners. So everything, being an individual, don't we want it? Hmm? We want it. So here the perception of the management definitely there, that if there would be the physical condition of the working sphere needs to be enhanced, and simultaneously wage would be enhanced, then automatically that workers, they will feel motivated to work, and definitely it will have an impact on the production. Okay, so while going by this understanding, the experiment had started. Okay, so if we take into account the Hatran's experiment, so basically these are the 4 phases. So in your material, you will get the elaborative understanding on it. I have not done so much elaboration in the slide, so I'll just discuss it. So these are the 4 phases through which actually the Hathran experiment was conducted, and uh, and the conduct of such thing have come up with the idea that if there would be better physical working condition, automatically it matters in the productivity of the workers. So do you think that there is any kind of issue with that, that you are not agree to this understanding, that will you disagree? My question to you, that will you disagree with that physical or working condition does not matter in productivity? Any answer? Are you getting my question? Hmm? That do you believe that working condition does not matter towards the productivity of the organization? Hmm?
Yes, ma'am, matters.
Matters. So here, if you go by the arguments of Hathran's experiment, or the outcome of Hathran's experiment, so Elton Mayo argued something differently. That he made the point that it is always not the necessary that the physical condition or the working condition will determine the productivity among the workers. So that deviation actually you will find in case of human relations theory. So these are actually 4 phases through which the Hathran experiment was conducted, and the first phase begins in the shape of illumination experiment, and here the proposition was that there is a relationship between illumination levels, incentive schemes, and production levels. Okay, so here actually illumination means what? That illumination means the lighting arrangement of the working sphere. Okay, the lighting arrangement of the working sphere. So here, for a continuous time period, that around 2 to 3 years, from 1924 to 27, so they have taken two groups. Okay, so these two groups have been taken on the basis of that to be monitored, that if they would be exposed to a kind of situation where the lighting conditions would be reduced, okay, or the incentive schemes would essentially not to be provided, then whether does it matters in the productivity levels. So after experimenting this, they observed that actually there is no necessary connection between the illumination levels, incentive schemes, and productivity levels. Then they find out that how it could be, okay. Then they got that okay, despite being changing the condition of illumination, the degrees of illuminations, that the group, the workers groups, those who had been taken as control groups, they performed well. So then they noticed that actually that after being working in a group, they have developed a sense of bonding with each other, okay. They have developed a sense of bonding with each other. They cope, they on a regular basis they got the opportunity to interact, to share their thought with each other, and this has somehow uh, led towards creating a group motive that they need to work. So here, that despite being the absence of or the variations with regard to the illumination labels or incentive schemes, so workers or the control group who have been taken into the study group, they performed well, okay. Their productivity continues to be well. So here they come up with the conclusion that there is no necessary relationship between illumination levels, incentive schemes, and productivity levels. Then another study, another test subsequently been conducted in the form of relay assembly test room. So here also they had taken few people, few persons who were been grouped together and separated from the main department and given a particular space for the work, uh, with a particular assignment that they have to assemble the telephone lines. And there also they have approached that whether there is a link between supervision, moral, and productivity. So here that though the working condition was not very much good in this experiment, but so far as the necessities of the workers are concerned, it was always supported or provided in time whenever they demanded it. And simultaneously that the regular supervision for them was being conducted in order to assess that how actually they are doing towards the productivity. And finally they got the understanding that the supervision or the moral and the productivity is actually corresponding to each other in bringing productivity. So that has become the cornerstone of the human relations approach. So here also they feel, the group member, they feel to they feel to participate irrespective of their separation from the main group. They feel to participate and shows their productivity. Then subsequently another program was also conducted, that is interviewing program in from 1928 to 1931, where actually they have observed the human attitude, how actually human attitude could be studied. And for that actually they have surveyed around more than 20,000 workers, and there they have tried to assess the workers feeling towards their supervisors and general conditions of the work, okay. So they were expected that by interviewing that the workers must ventilate or bring out those facts which must be meaningful for the productivity of the management. So, but after making survey, they came to the conclusion that there is no association between the the opinion given by the workers with to the fact, and most of them also talked about many things about their life beyond the organization. So this indicates that essentially what workers are feeling about the production, or essentially that here that is being driven with not only about their relationship within the organization but also at the outside level. Then the banking wearing observation program or the social organization, which is actually been conducted in a natural setting. So all the before all these programs were conducted in a specific space, and particular groups, particular individual are being identified and taken to a particular office space, so that the study could be taken place. But in the banking wearing observation program, that there it was conducted in the normal regular setup, and some the group the group members were identified, actually who needs to be monitored from the outside. So it was observed that the group pressure also enable individual to perform. Okay, so it is not merely about the financial incentives, that my organization giving me this financial incentive, so that's why I will perform. But but there is also another thing, that I may also get pressurized to perform due to my peer pressure. So whatever the group, my colleagues, how they are doing the work, so how they are standardized the work, so accordingly I am also get been inspired and doing the work. So here that they have come up with the understanding that group pressures on individual members were stronger than the financial incentives. So all these experiments finally been interpreted over here, that after interpreting the outcome of the Hathorn studies, Mao was of the opinion that the test room girls become a social unit. And because of the increased attention of the research team to them, the unit developed a sense of participation in the project. So, whenever a group would like to perform, if every member would show their interest to participate, that automatically that the organization will work or deliver best than just the financial incentives. So here Mao's point is that the how actually creation of a social unit, it matters in bringing desirable outcome of the project. So in that regard, those persons who are been part of that organization, they need to develop themselves a bondage. And here the the bond among them, it is not essentially been mm, um, that whether it to be imposed by the management or to be uh, identified by the person themselves. In that aspect, Mao is not saying anything. Mao, though, identified that the individuals who are working in the organization, they need to act as a social unit. But how that social unit to be constructed, whether it could be continued as a convention, whether it let individual members to decide how they are going to um, uh, construct or work as a social unit, or management has to facilitate it, on that aspect actually Mao had not mentioned anything. He only talked about that as the participant, as a sense of participation have come up among the girls, so that's why it led them to act as a social unit, and that's why they were successful in bringing the productivity. Then one should not miss the human aspect of organization while emphasizing the technical and economic aspects of the industry. So, human relations theory also asks us to think over that it is not merely about the industrial organizations are not merely meant for technical and economic aspect of the industries. So, they have to also take into account the human aspect of the organization. And also, it suggested a new mix of managerial skills in addition to the technical skills. So, the management should handle human situations, motivate, lead, and communicate with the workers. So, here somehow it is providing an alternative understanding that about the role of management under scientific management theory. That under scientific management theory, the management is actually knows everything, so it has the ability to decide who could be the best worker for the organization. Then it has also the ability to innovate that what would be the best method to procure the products. So here actually very limited opportunities are available in case of the worker. But while coming back to the human relations theory, we are getting the role of management as somehow the facilitator, or you could say that under scientific management the role of the management has been viewed as a controller, okay, a regulator. But under human relations theory the role of management has been viewed as somehow the facilitator who need to actually collaborate with the worker, uh, who need to regularly communicate with the worker, needs to get motivated them, needs to learn about their non economic needs, so that it would be able to act as a facilitator. Then they also felt that overemphasis on the technical progress and material life at the expense of social and human life was not good. Okay, which actually the classical theories have focused into. They emphasized on the technical progress and the material life, and the concept of authority should be based on social skills in securing cooperation rather than command or order, okay, or expertise. Okay, so the concept of authority should be based on social skills in securing cooperation rather than expertise. So here that once again this last point actually uh, provides the understanding that somebody who is an expert, whom actually we are considering as an expert. Okay, so in our society, while we are saying that somebody is an expert on this issue, that means we are valuing uh, the role of that person in terms of experience, that definitely that person must have certain experience, definitely that person must have certain exposure, definitely that person must have certain degrees and qualifications, so that's why he or she is an expert on this field. But while managing the organization, so it is not merely about acquiring degree, uh, it is also about that also that how actually the learning experience of the concerned individual has enabled him or her to acquire the social skills, and one of the social skill is about to gain cooperation. So in order to gain cooperation in an organization, the authority must have that social skill to be gelled with the workers or the management staff, then only. So here it is essentially talking about that the command driven authority which seem to be very much through the control perspective. So in that regard, that it is really not been acceptable in the organization. Rather, the authorities who are likely to pose the democratic behavior, the accommodative behavior, they are likely to secure more cooperation in comparison to those authorities who are exclusively maintaining the status of authority on purely hierarchical basis. So these are some of the uh, argument by the human relations theory. Then it is also talking about that there must be harmony between the informal social system and the formal organization. So here that we have also discussed about the formal and informal organization. So here also it is making the point that formal organization could also inculcate the values of informality within the formal organization. So informal social system could be created, okay, in the formal organization. Like some many of the in today's world we are finding that most of the organizations, they are conducting picnic for their staff, hosting dinner for their staff, uh, going on a vacation. So these are essentially what these kinds of activities are actually essentially about the creating the informal social system in the concerned formal organization. So here Elton Mao is arguing that harmony must be there with regard to the informal social system and the formal organization. Then an internal equilibrium has to be established and maintained in the organization. So the logic of organization behavior is primarily non-rational in economic terms. It is more social and psychological in its roots. So here the rationality itself. So basically, who is a rational being? Who is rational? What is to be rational? It is actually a very much inquired question in social science literature. So generally, while we are talking about rationality, we expect that the person or any decision not to be taken in considering the aspect of the emotion. Okay. Then also we are considering that while coming to the economic decision, so we need not to be compromised at the level of our income or at the level of our incentives. But Elton Mayo's argument is that the social and psychological conditions could be taken as the ground of rationality. So rationality here need not to be only confined to or determined on the basis of economic terms. It is also about the social and psychological in its roots. So that also need to be taken into account while taking any kind of decision. And in that way, actually, an internal equilibrium could be established or could be maintained in the organization.
तो
And
देखो मुझे जैसे
accordingly,
फोन कर देते तो मुझे
management would have to what? Anyone saying anything?
मैम दे आर नॉट म्यूट, मतलब म्यूट नहीं कर रहे हैं उनका। आपका थोड़ा कम सुनाई दे रहा है।
Oh, what I'll do? How many times I'll say कि please mute karo. There, who is not doing that? Please mute. Hello, I think it is Raja Kishore. Who is Raja Kishore? Raja Kishore किए ठीक है म्यूट करो
କଥା ନା କରେ
म्यूट करो तुम स्पीकर को म्यूट करो छिपाना ना कौन mute yourself. And if you are not muting, then please be silent. Okay? So anyway, that while coming to the final conclusion of human relations management theory, so basically it is talking about that there must be a cordial relationship between employers and employee. So management needs to be a facilitator in locating the needs of employees or needs of the individual, especially the non-economic interest of the individual. Then also the organization must need to think about creation of informal structure within the formal structure. So the relationship between formal and informal structure found to be more prevalent while discussing in the context of human relations theory. Okay. So in that regard, actually, that it seemed to be very much human oriented um, theory in comparison to the other class, the scientific management theory. That here it is though it is talking about the productivity, but here it is also very much careful about to incorporate the interest of the human being into the system of organization. So let's come to the critics. Okay, while coming to the critic, okay, now question may come up in your mind that okay, if scientific management theory and human relations management theory, they have come up in a similar time space, if you look towards their development. Hello, hello.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Raja Kishore, who is Raja Kishore? Please mute yourself. Please mute yourself. Why that person is not responding? I'm very much surprised. Are you not able to get my point? So here, the so far as the critical dimension relating to human relations theory is concerned, once again you started. Whoa, I have not been able to get what you want to say. Something? Do you want to say something, Raja Kishore? Or otherwise, I will inform your course coordinator. You are not cooperating. So here, that so far as the critical aspects of the human relations theory is concerned, that though it talked about the human dimensions, but essentially it had not deviated its attention from the productivity. So while studying organization, actually the paradox is that economic criteria somehow found to be predominant in comparison to the non-economic criteria. And of course, while we are talking about the industrial organization, so here that any criteria or anything which is needs to be done in order to improve, to make an improvement towards the productivity of the organization, so focus on human being has come as just another innovative or new theme in order to support towards the productivity of the organization. So that's why those who are for the other social science theories like Marxian theory was very much also critical about the human relations theory. That here that it argued that it is not been taken into account the role of trade union. So the job of the management is not just to take away the role of the trade union. So trade union are conventionally existing to negotiate the interest of the worker, to negotiate the interest of the employees. So the human relations theory in one way actually hijacking the role of the role of the unions, maybe employees unions or maybe the trade unions. So here management is reorienting its approach by making itself human in order to sustain the interest of the capitalist. So that is about the strong critical remark towards the human relations theory. And in that human relations theory also, that here so far as it has been tried to use the social connections. Okay, so social connections are been used, or the interpersonal connections are been used for the gain of the industrial productivity. What actually the critical critics are arguing for the human relations, the limit about the limitations of the human relations theory. Okay, so any doubt? Okay, I feel actually very disturbed today. So what happened? So any doubt about today's discussion? So we'll also proceed with the Herbert Simon's decision making theory, but I don't want to discuss now. So only 5 minutes left. So if you have any specific doubt, we may discuss. Okay.
No, ma'am, no doubt.
Are you clear about all things? You will be able to write the Weberian conception of bureaucracy.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I have to practice one time.
Practice. Practice of what? You need to read, not practice. You need to read.
Yes, ma'am, from the material.
Yeah, I am asking you not just to follow the material. Material you may take, but also there are many kinds of textbooks available in the market. You may pick anyone, like you take Mohit Bhattacharya's book. You may take Rumki Bas's book. You may also take Nicholas Henry's book. So there are so many textbooks are available in the market. You may consider those writings or those works while preparing your answer. Okay, no doubt your material has provided a comprehensive thing, but still I'll suggest you or advise you to go for the reading of textbooks available. Okay.
Ma'am, whatever you told about the criticism, that thing in our material, ma'am, repeated several, मतलब बहुत सारा, मतलब वही एक पॉइंट को घुमा फिरा कर तीन चार पॉइंट वैसे ही दे दिया है वो
कहाँ किसमें
लेंदी।
मटेरियल मटेरियल में?
मैम, जो हमारा बुक है ई ज्ञान कोश का जो है ना, वो
हाँ
हमारा ही जो बुक है, तो वही सेम चीज को तीन चार पॉइंट को वही बार बार वही रिपीट करके लेंदी वे में पूरा दे दिया है।
हाँ, दे दिया है, मैं देख रही थी। लाइक जैसे मैंने बताया ना, जो मैकेनिस्टिक कंसेप्शन ऑफ ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, ठीक है, ये वाला मटेरियल में नहीं है।
नहीं मैम, ये नहीं है, मैं भी देख रही
हाँ,
थी।
तो मतलब आपको जब एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव थ्योरी पढ़ना है तो यू नीड टू मेक ए ब्रॉड कैटेगराइजेशन। एक पैराडाइम्स तो आपको पढ़ना है, पैराडाइम्स तो लेकिन नहीं दिया है,
देख।
मटेरियल में नहीं दिया है, ठीक है।
हम्म,
तो ये आप वही निकोलस हेनरी का आपको गूगल स्कॉलर से डाउनलोड करना है, वो मिल जाएगा, ठीक है।
अच्छा
उसमें
ठीक है।
पैराडाइम्स दिया है। देन सेकेंडली, जो क्लासिकल अप्रोच और मॉडर्न अप्रोच और पोस्ट मॉडर्न अप्रोच, इसका डिस्टिंक्शन भी मटेरियल में एलाबोरेट नहीं किया है। इस थ्योरीज किए हैं, लेकिन which theories could be considered as classical, which theories could be considered as modern और post modern, उसका भी एलाबोरेशन नहीं हुआ है। तो
Hmm.
मैं मतलब I am adding to that. So though I was advised ki to follow your material, but I think it would be better if you club it with your material with the other materials, then you would be able to get a very comprehensive understanding. Like as if you are preparing for the civil service examination, competitive examination, then it will be helpful. अगर आप ऐसा नहीं करोगे then it would be very difficult, like if you are preparing for the NET examination in public administration. So questions are not only confined to your material only. Okay, so
Okay,
you need
okay,
to
ma'am.
have a
Yes, ma'am.
broader outlook on that. So in that
Okay,
regard, you
ma'am.
need to collect all these materials.
Ma'am, your
Okay,
lectures are
ma'am.
more comprehensive than material.
Okay, thank you. But
Yes.
you need to read it. You need to read it. Like I suggested some of the textbooks. In the last class, I'll tell you some of the, I'll send some textbooks. Okay. You
Okay,
may
ma'am.
purchase. These textbooks are not very much costly. They are coming around within 300, 400. Okay, so by following 3 to 4 textbook, you would be able to be enable yourself to compete in the NET examination at least. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay then. Okay, bye. So see you
Thank
in
you,
the
ma'am.
next class.